happy to. Yes, as a cybersecurity professional, I started in the Navy, and I've worked alongside three-letter organizations like NSA, FBI, just in a way to diversify some of my skills. Uh, it's mostly been defensive cyber operations, but for a couple of things, Title 10 and Title 50, they involve like warfare and techniques and stuff like that. That is where you more specifically need the ethical hacking certs, both for offensive techniques as well as knowing what you can do in the defensive side. So if you are just worried about people trying to access your networks through applications or through like backdoors or whatever, then you'll never know about social engineering. You'll never know about just denial of service or crashing servers just by feeding them information that they're not really designed to take. And so taking this course was, kind of important to broaden my horizons as that. But yeah, it's been the Navy. It's been the Navy for 7 years, and like I said, you work alongside a lot of other three-letter organizations that require cybersecurity expertise. Well, CEH benefited my career because when you join and you gotta pick a path, one of the two. I picked the defensive cyber operations, and was running into kind of an issue where I just couldn't really figure out what it was I was supposed to be defending against. How are all of these potential threats on the net coming at us? What does it all mean? And going through the course, being given all of these VMs and all of these different suites of tools for like net mapping, going through Kali Linux, learning how to write a hack essentially with the little scripts that they give you. Very, very interesting, as well as learning about all the different server types that we ran. I didn't know that there were different kinds of server OSs. Now I do. So it really just gave me a broader scope for what it was that I should be focusing on my job, like what I should be narrowing my scope down on when it came to whatever it was that we had to run our op on. CEH is widely recognized in the industry as a whole. Every contractor that I know tries to go for it. We annually in the Navy had a budget for sending people out for CEH. Some sites had more budget than others. Some sites had more people go than others, but every site tried to get some amount of budget. And I know that for a specific type of employee under the military, there are certain certification vouchers that Big Uncle Sam, people way above my pay grade that I've never ever met. They allocate a certain funding for like training purposes, and that's under it. That's covered under it, as well as a couple of other things like Security Plus and Networking Plus. So it's pretty common. It's pretty well known. CEH did help me get a promotion when I was in E4, and I got my certification for it, and I went to the course classroom and spent the whole week there going through the stuff. I came back with the other training that I had, was able to write up an evaluation that looked on me very favorably. It viewed me very favorably. So when other people were just doing their job in a couple of outreach programs, I was doing my job, my outreach programs, and getting special certified training. So when they had someone that they wanted to put, the Navy had someone that they wanted to put in a training role or a leadership role or a supervisory role, someone who had a decent understanding of the skills needed, of the subject matter required to teach, to train, to oversee, that was me. And so I couldn't do that as an E4. Really, they needed me, preferably E6, but E5 would do. So when it came next to ranking and evaluations, I had a lot more point evaluations that they added in from my training, and I was usually the first one to be asked for that kind of thing. And now that I'm looking for jobs on the outside, now that I'm no longer in the Navy, contracting companies are like, oh, did you get CIEH? How long ago was that? Do you still have the books? Oh, well, if you still got the books, if you're still up to date on it or whatever, that's a huge boon for us. Please send us your resume. It's really nice. Yes, CIEH helped me give back to the cybersecurity community. It was just in some of the job role expectations that I was able to perform with flying colors, and the training that I was able to give people. People would come in, they'd be using proprietary tools, they wouldn't understand how one thing differed from another, and being able to explain to them what exactly we were doing, regardless of what tool you were using, regardless of what browser you were using, or how you were parsing data for networks, for packet capturing, for whatever. Once you knew what you were supposed to be looking at, what the end goal was for either the nefarious actor or the malicious actor and us, it was very easy to get people to understand what it was that was expected of them, what it was that their job needed to be, and how they were supposed to give back to that. So, I mean, there was no specific one thing that I was able to do with CIEH under my belt, but I mean, in all the little ways that I was able to more effectively and understand what it was that I was doing, that's how I was able to give back to the community with it. My favorite part of the CIEH program was the capstone, the final level, which I got to work on. It was essentially a whole VMware like suite that was built to represent a network, and we were supposed to hack into it. And you had to use what you'd learned. You were able to have, I think, like a handful of like notes, whatever you could scratch down on paper in the morning. And so I'm just running like the difference between Windows configs, the difference between Windows questions and answers that I needed for like most common hacks, most common server OSs, most common command prompt like runs. What's the difference between Windows and Linux when I'm running these? And so you're hopscotching through, and you're like going through a 2001 box, and then you're going to like a Solaris box, and from the Solaris box you're able to ping out and look at other things, and then you were trying to get to Windows Vista because it had like admin credentials on it, and then go over to another box that had server information, and you were supposed to get the golden egg, whatever the file was you were supposed to extract, but you were supposed to find a way through the network to get your golden egg, and get out, and then wipe down the area with all of get rid of all of your tools, get rid of all of your traces, if you could, wipe registries if anything was going to be updated, try to look and make sure that there was no like tracking software that the computer might be running, or any like programs that might be like logging administrator privileges or credentials uses. So that stuff was really neat, because I can sit there and I can look at a book and I can scroll online and I can read about how some lizard crew hacked Sony and got tons of credit cards, and you're like, yeah, that's cool and all, but it's really just words up until a certain point. It's just a lot of fluff. But actually being able to sit there and read it, having to rename windows, having to keep track of what it is that you're doing, having to do it yourself, it really puts it into perspective, really shows you exactly how it can happen. Open source fingerprinting and active fingerprinting, just very fun. Learning about it, very boring, very classroom oriented. The instructor gets up, lectures, you write down your notes, you read it in the pages, and it's very dry and it's very stale. But in a live environment, when you get to see what you're using, when you're sitting there and you're stressing out and you're like, this is it, that's the final computer I have to get to. What was that command? What was the one thing I needed to learn? You know, it just makes it real. It makes it a lot more live, and it's a lot more fun that way. I really enjoyed it.